Very much indeed, Tracy, for your introduction on how Twitter works, because that stops me having to explain the basics in terms of a little bit on Twitter. What I wanted to look at this evening is a little bit of how that technology, how being able to communicate so instantaneously, so rapidly, being able to have communication happening amongst different people who've never spoken or met each other at all, being able to send messages and communicating on a scale that has never been possible throughout the whole of human recorded history to this date, as far as we know. It's having huge implications in terms of how society is evolving and interacting, and I wanted to look a little bit at that. I want to start off, though, first of all, with a little, we've all seen Twitter, we've all seen some of the silly things that happen. This guy is a banker in Singapore. Ben, of course, we had an interesting interaction on Facebook about this guy. Expat banker who mocked the stench of the poor on public transport faces the fury of Singapore. And indeed, so we can see him there. Would you believe it? He's only 38, he looks an awful lot older. That's his wife there, who, funnily enough, was a Miss Singapore in 2003. And we were having a conversation, actually, because it was like, I wonder what attracted her to him. I was almost reminded of, do you remember on the Mrs. Merton show years ago, when it was... So, Debbie McGee, what was it that attracted you to the millionaire Paul Daniels? Exactly the same thing here, that you got the impression was going on there. But why was this guy landing himself in such difficulty? He basically sent he put one status on Facebook and one tweet that really didn't go down very well at all. Apparently mocked poor people who use public transport and also called a cabbie a retard. This is what he ended up saying on Facebook. Status update, bit of picture on Facebook of his son riding on a metro train with the caption, "Daddy, where is your car and who are all these poor people?" Not really a way to endear yourself with your fellow man there at all, is it? Then the next day shows the boy sitting inside a silver convertible Porsche with a caption saying, reunited with my baby, normal service can resume once I've washed the stench of public transport off me. Not really the sort of nice egalitarian message that you want to be sending, particularly from the banking industry. They're so popular at the moment. Lawyers like it because now there's someone even more unpopular than us. It always used to be that lawyers were at the very lowest of the low. Now I think politicians probably at the same level, but the bankers are even below that. So that's really good for us there. And if they carry on doing things like that, we'll all to the good. Then this was his Twitter post. That's a picture there of the cab driver. He says, "And today's Cabbie Retard Award goes to Mr. Arm Warmer's stripy mittens and towel on the lap man. After all, it's only 37 degrees outside." A bit aggressive. I mean, what if the guy's got some sort of skin condition that means that he's keeping his hands covered? It's 37 degrees. That wheel probably does get rather hot during the day if you're in a cab for the whole time, so it's probably a perfectly rational, logical, reasonable explanation for this. But he's going and sending tweets like that instead. As a result, this guy was investigated by his stockbroker employers, and certainly according, I think, to the Sunday Times, he's now lost his job, just through saying something online that he probably should have kept to himself. Unfortunately, we're in a society now where it's always, let's share everything. How often do you see a programme that says, would you like to sort of share your opinions on our comment board? And you think, no, if you've got some ill-informed opinions that are really nasty, why don't keep them to yourself instead? Wouldn't that really help? Does anyone watch NCIS? Naval Criminal Investigation. I'm hoping there'd be a few people. I was hoping we'd get a room full of people saying, no, I watch CSI, but I've never seen NCIS. NCIS is a great piece of entertainment that Heather got me into a few years ago now, and I think we've watched all 11 seasons all the way through. Great fun. Did anyone see the one that was on most recently at the weekend, just gone? It was on Friday. This involved, as is always the way in NCIS, they're basically investigating crimes that are the most tenuous link possible to the Navy. They usually, every other week, they end up saving the entire United States from a terror attack, and that happened again this weekend just gone. But the way they did it was very interesting and illustrates the point in terms of communication online now. What was happening was, basically, a ex-sailor was flying a plane across the United States with the aim of flying it into an aircraft carrier. And they got the problem of, this guy is going to be flying in very, very low under the radar. It's a small plane, a little light Cessna, so it's not going to get picked up. How do we actually pick this up so that we can know what's happening and what his target is? So he's taken off, and they actually think, how are we going to do this? They basically find a rock group that two of the characters, Abby and what's the other guy's name?
Go now that you say it, I can't.
Oh, okay. Well, it was Abby and the other guy who went out with him in series 2, if that helps. Anyways, basically they had gone to a rock gig and one of the guys in there had got 1 million Twitter followers. McGee, that was it. Abby and McGee go and see this guy, he's got 1 million Twitter followers. They say, right, can we get the rock star with 1 million Twitter followers to say, we need to find this plane, use the hashtag #FindThePlane, and tell us if you see this plane. So then they're in MTAC, this big conference room, with a Twitter feed up and a hashtag for Find the Plane, and they're just waiting for people to start reporting it in. And it works, and people start saying, oh, I've just seen it fly overhead. Oh, it's just come past me on this road. Oh, you know, I was in a bar, just saw it, here's a picture. And they start being able to trace the path of the aircraft and work out what the target is as a result. And then they save the day, everyone's happy, no aircraft carrier explodes. But it kind of illustrates the point, though, in terms of that wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been possible at all 5 years ago. It wouldn't have been possible more than a few years ago. When you think about the fact that, you know, Twitter sort of reached a critical mass really since about 2010, 2011 in terms of having millions of people following and having such a large number of people engaged on it. While Facebook has more active users, they claim, Twitter has more sort of active use in terms of the fact that people are on there updating sometimes 15, 20 times a day. And you get some people with millions and millions of followers. You've now got, I believe it's Justin Bieber, shortly before he was recently arrested, who've got about 37 million followers. Incredible amount of traction. People like him, Lady Gaga, only just have to say, oh, just got up this morning, had a slice of toast, and millions of people are following it for some reason. You can share the most mundane things on there. But the issue there was they used the technology to actually be able to track and use it for mass surveillance. Now, going from there, this is happening in real life. The police are using social media to keep track of people. In this instance, in America, Seattle Police Department, where a crime has happened, officers investigating a bank robbery at 2nd and Columbia, suspect white male, 20, 5'5", short blonde hair, sunglasses, dark clothes, blue jeans, 7 retreats, 1 favourite. So within seconds, minutes of something happening, you can put it online, see if anyone nearby, you know, the guy could still be making his escape at this point. So rather than someone just walking out the door and being lost in the maelstrom of a big city, get that description out there, get it out there quickly on a medium that other people will have seen. It can make a difference. It is making a difference. In Los Angeles, through using systems like this to try and record incidents as they're happening, they're lowering the recorded crime rate. It's now 15% lower than it was 18 months ago through doing things like this, and also using different things like computer modelling. But the main issue here is the use of technology. A few years ago, that wasn't happening at all. It happens, now people get ripped off sometimes online. They're actually able to use the technology to then find who was that did it, what's happened in that, who ended up using it to rip them off. This was a guy in China who ended up meeting someone who was going to buy his iPhone. The guy said, oh, can I borrow it, just to see how it works? He said, yeah, well, absolutely. But when it was then returned, just during a meeting at a coffee shop, he realised that it had been switched and had been given a dud, like a display model. So he ended up just being able to go on, find the bullet, went onto a discussion group, found the guy who'd done it, and ended up leading the police basically to the guy who'd nicked his iPhone worth several $100s. The fact that everyone's so heavily engaged now on social media, be it Twitter, Facebook, means that we're recording more where we are. Going to the shops now, just arrived at the office, heading down to London on the train, going off to a JCI council meeting. If you look on the average person's Facebook feed, you'll be able to work out what the movements have been. Where were they on Saturday evening? Where were we a couple of weeks back? We were all at this hotel at the annual dinner. All those sorts of things feed in, so you can actually work out who was there with you. Very often can be worked out as well, again from clear social media updates. This can now be used as evidence. So the police very often, when they actually bring someone in, and then they're in the presence of an interview, they'll say, right, this was a tweet that you sent at this time, this was a Facebook status, you're saying you were here at this point, you've just admitted to us now in tears, but according to this Facebook update, you weren't there. Or someone else says you were somewhere else, and here's a photo of you at the time. So suddenly it's not quite as easy for someone to potentially try and construct an idea of exactly where they were. So it's becoming more and more crucial in terms of actually verifying what someone was doing. The trials we've got going on at the moment for the guy from Coronation Street and DLT, they're the last of their type. Because of course they're relating to events that happened 30, 40 years ago. Now, when it's events, you can work it out so easily if someone was there or not. Very often there's documentary evidence for it as well. Are we putting ourselves in danger, though, by sharing too much? Very often we are. I'm sure everyone in this room has got a smartphone of some sort. Is that right? Is anyone still using an analogue phone? No. All of these things have a little GPRS transmitter in there, if it's enabled. If you're doing sort of my run in the morning and it works out where you're going and what you're doing, it can end up pinpointing precisely where you are. As of the late 1990s, the device on one of those phones can predict, well, actually record within 2 feet your location. It's very, very accurate, and very often people have left it on because if you walk out the shop, that's what it says, it drains the battery a bit, but that's recording where you are. The potential future of where that leads us can be quite frightening, because at the moment it's in those smartphones. In the Da Vinci Code, they predicted the idea of a GPRS little dot you could have on your keys or on your wallet, so you won't lose it anymore. You'll be able to just say, where is it? You'll have a list, bang, oh, it's over there, because you'll be able to find it. Final thought, what if that ends up being compromised? Everything can be hacked. Any technology that's brought up, someone else puts together something to get around it very, very quickly and easily. So imagine you're in that police cell and they're interviewing you, and you say, I wasn't there, and they say, no, your GPRS says that you were. You say, but it's a setup, someone's hacked it. How can you prove it? Frightening thing, the idea of the technology being used as evidence, and it could be used against you very, very easily, depending on what happens with the growth of technology in the future, which is a nice upward positive note that I wanted to finish on for you there. I hope you found that useful, and it's just got you thinking a little bit about where technology is taking us. Thank you very much indeed for listening. It's been useful, and thank you very much.